There are millions of people who have changed the world. These people are the ones who have done something significant and something big. Something that was big enough that they did, it influenced mass numbers of people, and it affected people all over the world or in one nation. This does not necessarily mean what they did was a good thing. It means that they were leaders to some people. They literally changed the course of history. These leaders are the ones we hear in history books. They are the names that can't be forgotten because they played such a major role in creating the world that we know today. Some of these leaders did great things, some did horrible things, but they changed the world, and they had followers nonetheless. And there were always followers. Nobody in a history book did everything completely by themselves, with every person opposing them. Jesus Christ had followers, Gandhi had followers, George Washington had a literal army of followers. According to USA Today, the most influential people today are people in politics, like men and women in Congress, successful entrepreneurs like Bill Gates, and popular people in social media, like musicians, and there's that thing that Kim Kardashian is famous for. Politics shape our nation. Entrepreneurs determine the availability of new things, and they manage our small businesses and large corporations. People in the media influence our culture, and the people within it, particularly the youth. My personal favorite people in history are the infamous characters. Not because I agree with what they did, but because they were so convincing and they got millions of people to follow them, and they were able to persuade so many people to believe that what they were doing is a good thing. They literally changed the perspective of millions. Of course, Adolf Hitler is arguably the most infamous person in history. Hitler was an Austrian-born German. He fought in the First World War as a German soldier, and he was a decorated veteran. Hitler became the face of the Nazi Party, and the Nazis were basically a very racist people who believed in Lebensraum, which to German people means that there is no place on earth for people who aren't the same ethnicity as them. They ultimately believed that they were far superior. Hitler first was elected Chancellor of Germany and later became dictator. Hitler decided there was no room in Germany, or anywhere else for that matter, for Jewish people. Fun fact, Hitler assigned a German scientist to develop a substance that would help the Nazis stay awake and alert for over 24 hours with little to no sleep, and the finished product was the very first version of methamphetamine. Nazi Germany invaded European countries and captured millions of Jewish people. The captured people were sent to concentration camps in Germany, where at least 5.5 million Jewish people were killed, and that does not include the other millions of people and soldiers killed by Nazi Germany in World War II. Hitler later committed suicide in Berlin right before he was about to be captured. And Rome's third emperor, his name was Caligula. He is considered the worst person of authority in the history of Rome. He reigned for 4 years before he was bludgeoned to death in his sleep by Cassius Schera. Caligula is believed to have fallen mentally ill in the first 3 months of his reign. He began to brutally murder people for sport. He would senselessly kill men and women over a period of hours and days. He would decapitate and strangle children and force their parents and their families to attend and watch. He cut people's tongues out, fed people to lions. He would rape men and women and then rip off their reproductive organs with his mouth. He killed all of his closest friends and family members, including his 3 sisters. Joseph Stalin. He was the dictator of the Soviet Union for 30 years. He had people who voted against him executed. He was in favor of slavery and would work slaves until they died. No food, no water, no sleep. Stalin once kissed a small girl's forehead in public and told her he would not hurt her. He later killed both of her parents with an ice pick. He had senseless raids performed on his own cities. Fun fact, the Soviet Union invented mustard gas bombs while Joseph Stalin was in power. He closed down businesses for no reasons. His actions were the cause of over 10 million people dying in famine. And crime was at an all-time high. Joseph Stalin died of a stroke in 1957. I could go on for hours about the infamous people in history. There's tons of evil people, like Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, Ivan the Terrible, the Tsar of Russia, Scott Seaman, the guy that invented Crocs, and Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq. The people who did great things earn Nobel Prizes and their faces in books. They're the people rewarded and recognized for their positive impact on society and all around the world. Like Martin Luther, not to be confused with Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther was a German Catholic professor of theology who in 1517 wrote what he called his 99 Theses, which were basically 99 things that he thinks should be changed about the Roman Catholic Church, which was extremely powerful at the time. He posted his 99 Theses on the front door of the church. The church threatened him, and the emperor deemed him an outlaw. Martin Luther began his own church with some similar practices to Baptist and evangelical Christianity. Martin Luther's church mainly teaches that nobody's perfect and God doesn't expect total perfection of you, and you can live your life how you like and still achieve salvation. Martin Luther's church is today known as the Lutheranist Church, and the people who are part of the church identify as Lutheranists. Nikola Tesla, often considered the greatest inventor of all time and maybe the smartest person of all time. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian-American inventor, mechanical and electrical engineer, physicist, mathematician, and futurist. Nikola Tesla was a genuinely brilliant person. He invented things never thought of in the 1800s. He once invented a small boat, which he controlled using radio waves. He took the boat to a public pond and drove it around for a while to attract attention. People said he was practicing witchcraft once they saw it. And from there on, very few people took Nikola Tesla's invention seriously. He tried to sell this technology to the military, but even the military told him this technology cannot possibly exist and refused to accept his offer. Nikola Tesla even invented what he called the peacemaker. It was an extremely powerful super weapon that he said could end any war. It was basically a laser gun that shot tiny particles of energy at an extreme velocity. It could shoot a plane out of the sky in one shot, and the model that Nikola Tesla built was only fired twice. Fun fact, Nikola Tesla developed a gambling addiction when he was young and gambled away all of his school tuition money. He gambled all of the money back and gave all the money to his parents to hold on to until he could control himself. He was even working on transmitters that could pass invisible electric current to anything you wanted. And he tested this in his lab, but it resulted in a giant laboratory fire that burned $50,000 worth of material in 1901. Nobody is quite certain of how Nikola Tesla died. TheTelegraph.com states that people most commonly believe that he died of illness or that he was murdered for using witchcraft. Vincent van Gogh was a Dutch post-impressionist painter, most famous for his oil paintings and use of vivid colors and broad brush strokes. Almost all of his work came from when he was 27 through 37. In that decade, he created and released over 2,100 pieces, 860 of which were oil paintings, including his most famous painting, Starry Night. He also released The Night Cafe and my personal favorite, The Potato Eaters. Van Gogh is commonly remembered for the time that he was angry at his brother, and just like anybody angry with their siblings, he cut off his left ear and gave it to a prostitute named Rachel. I'm sure she loved it. Though it may have been difficult to notice, Van Gogh was believed to have suffered severe mental illness. His father put him into an asylum where he stayed and painted for a year. Once he got out, he almost immediately died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was 37, and much like Kurt Cobain, he became extremely famous after he died. There are far too many people that have impacted the world to mention, but if you consider the billions of people who have had the opportunity to impact the world, those people are actually an extreme rarity. And as history progresses, we will see more people inducted into the universal picture of significant people.